Welcome back to the Fretboard Journal podcast. I'm your host, Jason Verlinde. As always, that's John Rauhaus playing in the background. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are creeping up on our 500th episode of this podcast. I can't believe it. I can't thank you all enough for tuning in week after week, letting me share all these interviews with you. I think we've built up a pretty impressive library of artists sharing their stories, and I hope you agree. As always, you can share your feedback with me at podcast@fretboardjournal.com. And on today's podcast, we are sharing somebody I know from kind of two sides of the industry, Andy Pitcher. Andy works with a lot of artists at D'Addario. He helped me out with that incredible Jim D'Addario cover story in our 55th issue. Andy is also an incredible guitarist in his own right. He's played with a whole bunch of bands. He makes his own music, which I would have to classify as experimental, for lack of a better word. And he just put out this utterly beautiful record called Dot. And even if the experimental moniker scares you, or some of the talk of gear that you're about to hear scares you, this is an incredibly accessible album. As you will hear, Andy had a method to his madness when he made this record, and it sort of reminded me of all these songwriters I keep interviewing as of late, who have songwriting prompts and give themselves deadlines. Andy gave himself some parameters in which to make this instrumental guitar record. I think it turned out amazingly. And I hope you enjoy hearing Andy Pitcher's story. Dot, the album, D-O-T, is available on all the streaming platforms as well as Andy's Bandcamp. Please go check it out. Andy was at our last Fretboard Summit in 2024, and he's going to be coming back to our 2025 Fretboard Summit, as are a whole bunch of other artists who you've heard about, read about, listened to on this podcast and in the pages of our magazine. Wayne Henderson is coming back. TJ Thompson and Mark Stepman are coming back. Jonathan Stout tells me he's coming back. Sophia Wolfson and so many others. So if you want to be a part of what is basically an extended family reunion that also has a guitar show component, come to the Fretboard Summit. Fretboardsummit.org is how you can register. We have an incredibly huge name I'm about to drop in the next few weeks added to the Fretboard Summit lineup. I encourage you all to nab a 3-day pass while you can. It's going to sell out, and you can thank me later. I'll say that much. And for anybody out there wondering what this summit is, it's a 3-day-long party/festival held at Chicago's amazing Old Town School of Folk Music. During the day, we will have interactive workshops, luthiers you can visit and buy guitars from, a whole bunch of learning, live podcast tapings, and surprises. And then at night, we throw down the gauntlet. We have concerts going on 2 stages, one across the street from each other. A 3-day pass allows you to bounce back and forth between the stages. And I promise you that a whole bunch of people you've heard about on this podcast will be there. I will be there. It is unlike any guitar show I have ever attended. The emphasis is truly on learning and fun. And I have to say, even if you are not in the market to buy a new guitar right now, you should attend, because you can fill your entire day with music workshops, learning how to play better, learning from some of the people you've heard about on this podcast. It's just a beautiful experience for everybody. And I encourage you all to attend, fretboardsummit.org. I also just want to announce that our 56th issue of the magazine is at press right now. So if anybody hasn't subscribed yet and wants to join us, you have about a week to get in on that first mailing of the Fretboard Journal straight from our printer. So please join us at fretboardjournal.com. We have a new sponsor, which I'm super happy about. Taking care of ourselves has become a theme on a lot of these episodes of the podcast. Maybe it's just where I'm at in life. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Traditional in-person therapy can cost from $100 to $250 per session. It adds up fast, but with BetterHelp online therapy, you can save on average up to 50% per session. With online therapy, you get quality care at a price that makes sense and can help you with anything from anxiety to everyday stress. Plus, you can switch therapists at any time. Your well-being is worth it. You can visit betterhelp.com/fret, and you're going to get 10% off of your first month thanks to the Fretboard Journal podcast. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/fret. We are also brought to you by our friends at Mike and Mike's Guitar Bar right here in Seattle, Washington. Mike Ball of Mike and Mike's Guitar Bar just wrote this incredible piece on the Walkman in our 55th issue. A lot of you have commented on that. Thank you. And you can visit their store anytime at mmguitarbar.com, or better yet, come to Seattle. Come see me. I'll take you out for a cup of coffee. I'll point you in the right direction. It's about a mile from where I sit, and their showroom is just filled with great vintage guitars, synths, you name it. And they do have, like I say every week, this incredible repair shop that includes amps right next to their store. So if anybody needs their amp serviced here in Seattle, I highly recommend it. Our buddy Jesse Quitzland is over there at Mike and Mike's Guitar Bar. We are also brought to you by Peghead Nation. You can get your first month free or $20 off an annual subscription with the discount code Fretboard over on Peghead Nation. Matt Munisteri is teaching there. Grant Gordy, Taya Gherkin, so many great artists that we've showcased on this very podcast are teaching there, are working there. It's just this incredible learning tool, and you can join it at your leisure. You can pick your classes. It's a lot of fun. You go to pegheadnation.com. Like I said, use the discount code Fretboard when you check out, and go listen to our recent podcast with Peghead Nation co-founder Dan Gable. It was a good one. Last but not least, our friends at Stringjoy Strings are still offering you 10% off of your first string order using the discount code Fretboard. Go to stringjoy.com. Check out all that they are offering. Those are my big announcements. Again, Andy Pitcher is on the podcast. I love this record. I love sharing new music with you. I hope you guys enjoy it. And thanks, as always, for tuning in to the Fretboard Journal podcast. Episode 498. I cannot believe it. Andy Pitcher, how are you?
Jason Verlinde. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. You know, you are a frequent Fretboard Journal community member. You are the artist relations person for D'Addario, so I'm talking to you for that. You helped us out with that amazing cover story we did with Jim. And then you decided to put out this incredible record that's out now. So we have all sorts of reasons to talk to you.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be around, and there are a few communities in this space that are just feel as good as yours and the one you've been able to curate for yourself. And I was so grateful to be able to make that Jim story come together. You did such a beautiful job. And I was really flattered when you asked if I'd want to do this. So thank you.
Yeah. The record is Dot. It's on all the, I mean, I found it on Spotify. I guess it's everywhere. And I have known you to be a constant experimentalist. I've seen some of your guitars with built-in David Tornish effects thingies that will confuse most people if we try to describe them. When it came to this record, I hear, you know, it's an instrumental record. I hear some stuff that's sort of like, you know, when to compare you to someone else, like when Julian Lage and Critter play, you know, bluegrass inspired instrumentals. I hear some of that. I hear some ambient. I hear a lot, and I'm guessing there's a story behind this record, and there's a method to all the madness. So tell me about it.
Yeah, it's you know, I always since I was young, I'd wanted to make an album. I mean, you know, when I was a teenager, I had a band, and I'm like, yeah, we're working on a record, and then that fizzled out. And then in my early 20s, I'm like, well, I guess I'll do a solo record, and that never happened. And slowly, I found myself every year kind of making this unfulfilled promise to myself. And it took me a while to realize that I didn't have a record to make. I had a lot of thoughts, and I played guitar all the time, and I was improvising constantly. And I think that led me to this place of like, why is one thing better than the next? It's not really worth making one thing. Oh, this is a song now, you know? And then I started having the luxury of getting like gigs as a recording guitarist. So I'd contribute to someone's record, and I worked with Gabriel Marin from Consider the Source and Matika here in Brooklyn, and a band like The Armed. And when I'm given a task, I find it so easy, you know, vision focused, to like come up with something that's perhaps complementary. It does the job that they ask, and that I feel proud of. And that's when I started to realize that if I wanted to find like my sound, I'd have to design it for myself first. As if I were the one requesting studio work. So I actually designed the record about a year ago. And in order to say everything I wanted, in case I only ever got one chance to make a record, something bad happens to me financially or, physically, I might have tendonitis. Maybe I can't play anymore. Like what would cover all the territories I think of as potentially where my guitar exists? And, it was kind of a manic list, to be honest, And so then I'm like, okay, well, how does that work? And I designed this kind of palindrome of textures and of contexts almost. So it's solo acoustic guitar, first and last track, and the next track in 2 and 6, it's guitar with accompaniment, and it's kind of in this gray area where everything is played on an electric and acoustic at the same time and mixed in such a way that sometimes the acoustic details jump out, sometimes the electric details jump out. And then the next in 3 and 5 are what I call electronic guitar. So it sounds like synths, but it's all just like reverb at the max, making synth style pads and drums I programmed. And then finally, right in the middle is just improvised DL4 music with the Line 6 DL4. That's my favorite. And if that's all I ever get to do on the instrument, I will feel at least I got all my main areas. And I just hoped that despite the kind of manic array of textures, the compositional voice and improvisational voice would be enough to tie them together. So it doesn't sound like I didn't know what I was doing, which I didn't, but I, could pretend.
Did you give yourself a deadline for like, this palindrome has to be done by this day and I'm going into a studio?
Well, the record had to be out in my 20s. And today's April 4th. The record comes out today. And April 6th is my 30th birthday.
Oh, you did give yourself a deadline. Wow.
Yeah. So I did it just in time. And it kind of is like the material, the things I'm pulling from are a reflection of my 20s. I mean, there are ideas on this record. I found a video on my phone from 5 years ago and I played 3 chords and it inspired me to write one of the tunes. And the opening track, All's Life, is something I wrote when I was 15, and I've been trying to figure out what to do with it since. I mean, it's just kind of a retrospective, but without being exhaustive and trying to share 10 years of music. I just wanted to make a little half hour. Please sit down and listen to this in full and find your favorite moments and come back to those later kind of thing.
All these different styles, from the Line 6 to the acoustic, representative of your 20s, which is a whole decade.
Yeah.
Are they all representative of what you're doing today? Or some of these like throwbacks?
Some of it's a little like throwbacky to something I might've been listening to a lot. So when in like my late teen years, I was listening to a lot of Pat Metheny and a lot of Mastodon. Mm-hmm. And I was super into krautrock and, 70s prog. A lot of my upbringing, I'm on the younger side, but I was not smart enough to like torrent music, so like growing up without money, the way I found music was I would buy records when they were just $0.25 each at the thrift store. And I don't know who it was. They probably have passed, which is why I found their whole record collection, but someone donated like, Jeff Beck, Blow by Blow, Mahavishnu, Birds of Fire, Pat Metheny, First Circle, or Pat Metheny Group. Just all these amazing guitar records. Yes, Fragile. And I spent like $0.25 each on these things. And I would come home and I know I'd heard of Pat Metheny. I know he's a guitarist. And I put this thing on, I just get blown away. And I just, watch the needle kind of tumble around in the groove. And I'd taken all this information. And so, yeah, there are moments on it. Like the second track to me could probably be like 2 or 3 tracks if I didn't write little bridges between sections. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's kind of a immature writing style that's like trying to imitate some of those long prog epics, where it goes from this to this to this. And that's not how I would write today, but I wanted to make something that felt like what me at that time would have liked. So there are degrees of that, definitely.
I think we've recorded 500 episodes of this podcast, and you're the first to ever bring up Mastodon. So you can like credit to that.
Thank you.
How much gear did you actually use on this record? Like, it starts and ends on acoustic, but like, was it a trunk full in a car trunk full of gear?
Yeah,
Were there a lot of effects? Or
I drive a Prius, and I put the seats down and filled it. And I drove from Brooklyn here to Kawari Sound in Wyncote, Pennsylvania, which is a beautiful wooden kind of 70s style tracking room with the control room on the second floor. So there's no line of sight to the engineer. So I knew I could make to Zach Goldstein, the engineer, so I could make as many faces as I wanted and kind of be, in secret. And just in headphones, I would just get like, yep, we're rolling. And then I could start doing my thing. And I brought a whole cavalcade of borrowed instruments. I kind of put my money towards the recording. And I was so lucky to have really gracious friends like the Blue Guitar Foundation kindly lent me a 1945 Martin Single 018.
That's a good thing to lend.
It's a pretty good guitar. Yeah, it's not so bad. And that's on that's the first track. And I recorded it in such a way where I put the back rim at an angle against my chest. So the back was free to vibrate and the top was open. And I basically set up 14 microphones in the room where there was a stereo like head style mic behind me, like one of those binaural, looks like a mannequin head. And then I put 3 mics close and then 2 wide. So that'd be, now we're at 7, 1 mid room, like a Earthworks that's almost like a mic you would use for field recordings, and another Earthworks like QC30, whatever it is, in the hallway, a kind of mid room, but a slightly wider set, just all these different things. I wanted to hear the guitar reflect off everything. And then not only its reflections, but from my point of view, which is what I was hoping the over the shoulder binaural thing would be. And then I even reamped at the last track. I reamped some of those microphones through guitar cabs, through like half stacks. But yeah, so I just wanted to try capture.
This mic thing was your idea?
Yeah. I wanted to see what if you turned every like inch of a room into a unique sound, and then instead of effects, you were able to mix these different microphones. So if you want more reverb, you use a further mic. If you want like a phase, kind of psychedelic thing, you could blend between mics at a consistent rate and get this kind of soupy depth. And so on the first track, it's super simple. Just hit, it introduces the record. It's this guitar with all these harmonics. And then on the last track, it's a pre-war guitar company, Triple O, that my friend Steven lent me. And it's this incredible Brazilian Triple O that I just tuned down until it sounded best. Like I tried to find the resonant point of the body, the Helmholtz. And so I think it was around C sharp. And that track, End Alone, is all of these mics slowly being blended. Every 15 seconds, if you jump through it, it sounds like a slightly different mix, including through this like stereo set of Trainer half stacks, just to get all this low end. And so there's this like hum that's going on, but it's actually like, it's hum from an amp. It blended with the acoustic. There's even I taped a piezo to my ribs on the side, and I followed that rib to the point where the guitar leans on it. So you could hear, I was recording the guitar kind of through my rib. So you can hear like my guts and stuff. At the very end of the track, the last couple seconds, there's this like kind of sound. That's my body.
If this doesn't make everyone run over to their streaming platform of choice and hear this, I don't know what will. Did your engineer, like, he was just game for all this?
Yeah, I was, I definitely me and Zach Goldstein had a meeting ahead of time.
Okay. And
I visited the studio and I was like, here's what I want to do. I like the studio because you have a lot of really nice mics, like the Earthworks stuff and the, RCA44s and U87s. What if we do this? And he basically was like, yeah, if you want to pay for my time, I'll do whatever. And I'm like, perfect. Great. That's the attitude I need. Like has the expertise to pull off whatever thing, and is like, kind of the Steve Albini, like hire me like a plumber ethos of, yeah, you're paying for it. And so we did it. And then me and Zach Weeks up at God City did a lot of work to put it all together. And, I basically recorded too many options on everything because those acoustic tracks then go into this mixing process. So on a track like the sixth track with strings, there's a nylon string, there's a steel string, and there's a steel string Nashville tuned guitar. And what you're hearing isn't all 14 mics on all the time. You're hearing an instrument that is hybrid, like sort of chimera of all those things. So the hallway mic is the nylon string, and the wide mics is the nylon string. But then the close mic might be the steel string, and the mic behind my head is the Nashville tuned one. So if you listen in headphones and try to think your way around the room and listening, the reflection of the guitar is different than the guitar that's played up close. Or the guitar that's theoretically in your hands as the player is different than the guitar reflecting off the walls. And that took a lot of work, but
yeah, I was gonna say, did any of these ideas, experiments just not pan out where you're like, I tried to mic my rib and it wasn't even worth doing?
Well, the rib mic is used for effect at the end because it wasn't of great use at the beginning. You know what I mean? It's sure. It's like a bonus moment at the end where you really notice it because that's why I ended up reamping through the trainers. I wanted this low end that was like vibrations almost.
Yeah.
And so I could just like crank. I took a Soyuz 023, actually the mic that I'm talking into right now. And I reamped it through these stereo amps. But yeah, and so from there, like, you get all the spatial information, and moving inward on the album, you get onto the electric tunes. It's a lot of stereo amps, a lot of, DI stuff mixed really low. I took a nylon string with flat wounds on it, and I taped it at the bridge. So it had no sustain. It was all attack, and trying to layer that with electrics that have no attack, only bloom from like a maximum wet reverb or something, trying to line up everything just right. It's kind of a synth minded thing, but there's no synthesis on it. It's all guitars.
It almost sounds, I know this isn't like in vogue, but it almost sounds like you could have, or did you want to make it like a surround sound record?
Yeah, it's not like, I've considered like even like a spatial audio or something, or like Dolby Atmos, like especially a tune like Tent Temporary, the fifth track. There's about a minute and a half of like ambient stuff at the front. And I just did like 10 takes of improvisation with different setups. And my aluminum guitar, that's the main electric on the thing, made by Michael Lulul in Australia. When we designed that guitar together, I put piezos all over the top so I could kind of run my hand across it, and there's this like sound. I took 10 takes of that with different pedals and kind of playing the pedals. And then we listened back to it in mixing and brought up the moments that were interesting. So there's always something kind of in the lead, but it might be the one interesting thing in that whole track.
Okay.
So there's kind of like soft bubbling sound, and then something pretty, and a soft bubbling sound, and then a really fast, run that I played with an octave effect. And then I just put that in reverse with the DL4. So there's no effects in the box. It's all pedals, and then just arranging it, basically making this collage. To play it live, it would be very difficult.
I'm sure you've thought about it.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna like start improvising on the themes from the record, but I think it would take a bit of work for me to actually play the record. The only other musician on the whole thing is Michael Patrick Avery.
Yeah.
Who's an incredible drummer. And
he was at the Fretboard Summit.
He was at the summit with Adam.
He hit a pedal in the flower box.
Yeah. He's a great pedal builder. I mean, just such a sweet soul. And he played on the second track, Removed. And it was also just kind of game for everything. I'm so grateful I was able to find the right people who were had the experience and know how to pull off whatever silly thing I asked of them.
I'm just thinking like from a budgetary and logistical and realism point of view, like
Yeah.
most records you kind of wrap up in the studio, given all the intricacies of the microphones and all the layers. Did you go home with like a mixing console and kind of like do some like rough work at home when you weren't on the clock? Or was this all done in that studio?
So I love Ableton, and I made all of my drums and stuff in Ableton for the electronic tracks and bass synthesis. I tracked in Ableton. I did some at home tracking for like the DL4 DI stuff.
Okay.
But no, I don't have Pro Tools. I don't have Pro Tools. And so I made what I called mix maps. I could grab them in the other room. They were like scratched on the paper, fields of depth to try to explain what microphones I wanted where for what.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote I unfortunately made a couple manifestos in Google Drive and sent them to the producers who were so kind to work with me. And it had 100 references and, pictures on them. And this is what I want it to sound like. And it's a photo.
You need to share this stuff. You should share the map of the mics and stuff
online.
Yeah.
I brought a film camera to record with me so that I'd be off my phone. And I didn't use the flash enough. So I have less documents than I thought I would coming out of it. A lot of fuzzy yellow pictures got developed, but that's okay. Yeah. I mean, so the other thing is when I went into mixing at God City, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but when Zach Weeks, who mixed it and mastered it, would go home at night, I would sneak down and tweak stuff.
Okay.
Without anyone.
You don't want the world to know this because then everyone will want to do it, or Zach doesn't know that you did this?
I shouldn't have been.
Okay.
I shouldn't have been doing it, but
it's okay.
But I got it done. So
what's done is done.
What's done is done. And I spent not as much as I thought I would on the record. It was self-funded and I put it out myself, and which was really intimidating to try to figure out, but I think I did it.
It's so beautiful. And it's now that I know the method behind the madness of like the palindrome, like I'll listen to it with a different set of ears. And
Thank you.
I don't know. It's you've always got, every time I've ever seen you, you've got this like incredibly eclectic range of gear. And so you've mentioned the Martin, you've mentioned the Pre-War, and then the aluminum bodied. It's an aluminum bodied guitar, or no, aluminum neck guitar.
Yeah, it's aluminum neck through. So every point the string is touching is aluminum, which gives it about 54 seconds of sustain, which is unbelievable. I can hit an open string and just sit there and hear the whole Overtone series bloom. I used NYXL 12s on it, so they're pretty heavy. If I put 11s on it, it doesn't do the trick all the same. So it's kind of like an aluminum Jazzmaster, but it kind of looks like a potato.
Yeah.
It's a semi-hollow too, so there's a lot of great like low-end resonance. Blake played with it at the Summit last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a really beautiful guitar. Michael is a landscape architect in Australia, I think maybe Queensland, and I mean, award-winning. Like his career is great, and for fun, and I probably a distraction that could be a whole other career if you really committed to it. He builds guitars because he has the means. He has the engineering know-how from his day job. And I mean, he mills aluminum in his backyard and then hand finishes it. It's just incredible work. And mine is only number 27. And I've been lucky to drag that thing around quite a few places, Chicago, thanks to you. And everyone's always very surprised by it. I think if he was able to make more, they would do pretty well. But one thing I like about that guitar is I'm not worried about breaking it. So whenever I'm at a gig, if anyone, any of the 6 people who see my shows listening to this, ever want to try it, just ask me. I love giving it to people because I'm not nervous about them hurting it.
Yeah.
It's all, I have to scratch it to do half the sounds I make. So I'm like always scratching the top, and I take the vibrato bar out and I smack it against the top and I bounce it on the strings and do these little dulcimer things. So it's a tough guitar That was the main electric. I have a parts caster with a Supertron in the neck. That was kind of the B electric guitar on the record. And then the last acoustic, well, I personally own an Eastman, a pretty budget Eastman that I use for Nashville tuning. But the last really amazing acoustic that I was loaned, Jim D'Addario actually lent me that Panzer Metheny 6.
Wow.
That's in the article. He lent that to me, and that's all over the record. It is such an amazing sound.
Nice.
It's very gracious of him. That's on the Metheny Mastodon tune a lot. There's all these like, stereo double tracked guitars. That's all the Metheny.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for anyone who saw the article, now you know how to hear the guitar. Sort of.
Yeah. In 100 layers. It all became, Nick Millivoy is a great guitarist, and I believe, I think he introduced me and you once upon a time.
Yeah, he's at Premier Guitar now, but he did some work for us back in the day.
Yeah. He came to the studio. He suggested the studio to me, and he came by on the last day tracking to kind of listen to the roughs of everything. And he was like, I've never heard a guitar sound like Elliott Smith's voice. I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, the way he double tracked everything, like on With Strings in particular, it reminds me of Elliott Smith. And after that, I totally heard what he meant. And I do owe it to that guitar. Like the way it layers with itself is so rich and consistent.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? You can't play this thing live. You've already established that.
Yeah. I think maybe I could, get Michael to play break beats with me to do the other stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to be improvising more. I'm hoping to collaborate with people more. Really, for me, like, in my pessimistic kind of nervous worldview, just from having lost, like, I mean, the record's about loss in a big way. That is like, that has been my 20s. That has been my life up until now. Cause my parents are gone and most of my family's gone. I wanted to kind of sit with that thought, and the fear kind of being that I might not stick around for whatever, unlucky thing happening. But I did it. The record's out. I'm here to say it. Maybe I'll get in the car, I have a long drive tonight, who knows? But, if I stick around more, I'm going to hopefully use this kind of as a collaboration tool to offer people, and maybe find people who'd want to make music collaboratively with me. That's where I'm most rewarded. That's what was so hard about making the record, was to do it for myself. And that's where I kind of had to split myself into these separate roles of, person hiring the guy to write it versus the guy who's improvising on the compositions versus the guy who's mixing it when it's all me. So yeah, hopefully I can do some more collaborative work with people. My next record I want to do is called 100 Lullabies, and it would be 100 10 to 60 second pieces of music that I hope people would sample. And, either in hip hop or electronic music, or someone could put track 3 and track 60 as the A and B part of a tune and sing over it. Maybe they find ways that these parts connect that I don't. I think it could be cool. And then it could kind of live as like a sample bank that you can listen to on shuffle and get this big cavalcade of, interesting textures developing.
It's really cool.
Yeah. Thanks.
I mean, if this was sort of a symbolic soundtrack of your 20s that you got in just under the wire, it'd also be interesting to hear your 30s record in 10 years.
Yeah, it'd be cool. ... The ellipses record. Yeah. I don't know what's next. I mean, I've really been enjoying like fine acoustic guitars. It's such a privilege to get to borrow them time to time. I can't imagine owning one and what that would do to my playing, because these things come in and kind of give me a tune and then leave, or I write something on an electric, like that With Strings tune started as guitar synthesis during the pandemic. I wrote that. I had a really pretty good cheesy synth string sound off a Yamaha TX802, which is the DX7 rack unit. And I got super into that for a while. And then eventually it translated all the way back to just guitar, which, so I don't know, maybe I'll get back into guitar synthesis. I mean, that's kind of the fun of it for me, is not knowing day to day what I'm craving and just letting myself find it and improvise with it, and just trying to be more responsible about recording those improvisations so I could listen back to them and see what thing I might have found that I didn't give enough value to in the moment.
You're an incredibly versatile and exceptionally talented guitarist, which is why you're getting all these gigs. But I think most folks think of you probably as like a electric based experimentalist. You also have this very privileged job where you're hanging out literally with rock stars and their amazing guitar collections, as well as Jim's amazing guitar collection.
Yeah.
Which acoustic guitar has been handed or lent to you where you're like, oh my God, I see the light. Like, this thing is the holy grail?
Pretty much anything Jake, like Eddie, puts in my hands is usually a good one.
Yeah.
Because they've been cooking, like guitars, the way, like that Martin that's on the record did not sound like that when I first got it. It took a while to kind of like open back up and get warm. Jake's are always hot off the press.
Yeah.
I feel bad. I feel like it's not a good answer, but that Manzer was one of those guitars. The first time I tried it, I started playing the things that I was writing for the record. I played one chord. I played maybe a Metheny riff, and then I was like, oh, wait a second. And then I tried. I'm like, oh, okay. What if I do better? Yeah. And all of a sudden I'm like, hey, Jim, if I ever need to record, could I borrow this? Yeah, sure. And then like 8 months later, I come back much more sheepish. Like, hey, did you mean that? Would that be can I really borrow that? That pre-war guitar honestly was the same example that's on the last track. It just stunned me. But most of the pre-war stuff is, if I see myself ever getting behind the wheel of like a real professional acoustic instrument, it probably would be a pre-war. Just the sensibilities are kind of in line with mine.
Yeah.
This sounds so great. And there is something, their ethos is kind of like, get a really skilled team to work a little too fast and leave behind the signs that a human made it.
Yeah.
That's so listen to the record. That's so in my lane. There's mistakes all over it. There's so many dead notes, but I wanted to record it in such a way that they were exciting. And it felt that, energy or that joy or that dour thing, be it which side of the record it's on, the part that's a little younger and excited, or the part that's a little solemn and disappointed. Like, it's all there. Blunders and all.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Andy, the record's dot.
Mm-hmm.
It's out now.
It's true.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very happy. And I hope folks like it. And, let me know your thoughts. I'm easy to find online. Shoot me a message. If you want to collaborate on something, or if you need some guitars on a track, I always like to, build up sounds.
We need to have you line up a dozen microphones at the summit in some room so people can hear how varied their one guitar can sound.
Yeah. That's really the amazing thing. Especially using mics that you normally don't see like discussed in that way. I used an EV635, like a vintage one, at this bizarro angle off the top, but I just had it cranked in these headphones, and just moved it until I heard this harmonic I was looking for that I knew the guitar made, and I left it there. And basically this mic's only purpose was to bring out this one really deep harmonic up top that I loved. And I would record the guitar and it just sounded dead, because in the room I hear this thing. That's one thing I still, like, no one's ever been able to explain to me, is why a microphone doesn't sound like my ear, which is probably really like stupid and selfish. But I'm like, why, what kind of mic do you like? I don't know, what sounds like what I'm hearing? Yeah, that's how I got into those earthworks. They're like, it's all the details, even the ugly ones.
Yeah. I love it. We got to bring that to Chicago.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun.
Or something.
I'll bring the aluminum. It'd be nice to play.
Yeah. Let's figure that out.
Yeah. Great.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, thanks, Jason.
All right, that was my chat with Andy. Come to the summit, meet Andy Pitcher, see what he's up to. There's a whole bunch of mad scientists who come to the summit, and they have gear that you have never seen before, and they make the most beautiful music out of it. I'm looking at you, Andy. I'm looking at you, Duncan Price. It's going to be fun.